We're going to be talking about domain and range in context, but mostly just the domain, and using linear notation, and I'm also going to be using inequalities as well. You guys will be getting a new Clever on Monday that has to do with domain and range, and in the Clever assignment, it only allows you guys to use inequalities. It doesn't grade it if it's an interval notation. So like when you go to check it, it will say you're wrong even if your interval notation is right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it wants it as an inequality. So that's why I'm kind of doing both ways. I don't 100% know what the EOC is going to do. We looked at the framework for the curriculum for Algebra 1 from the state, and it doesn't explicitly say one way or the other. So we really have no clue what the EOC will end up doing because they can kind of make that decision and they don't really tell us. Okay, so we're going to rewrite the solutions to the inequalities in interval notation. So remember, what does number 1 read? Like, how would you read that? Raise your hand and tell me how you would read that. Colin?
X is greater than 5.
X is greater than 5. So how would you write X is greater than 5 in interval notation? So interval notation is the parentheses. So remember, interval notation, I'll write it over here. It looks like an ordered pair, but it's not really an ordered pair. So interval notation, for the x's, it's the least, or the one farthest to the right, or sorry, farthest to the left, comma, right. Y is lowest, comma, highest. Square bracket means number is included. It's like a closed circle. And a round bracket means number is not included. It's like an open circle. So get that stuff written down so that we can do these problems. Maybe Matt will give you a little bit of context on what interval notation is versus inequality notation. Yeah.
Why is there white lines?
Why is there lines going through the screen? It's done that all year. It just shows more on a white background than other backgrounds. Get it? All right. So if you were doing, I'll do this first one for you, and then I'm going to call in some people. But if you were doing this first one, you always go from least to greatest. So your least y, if x is greater than 5, is that your least number or your highest number? Greater than 5? Give me a number greater than 5.
7.
Any number above 5.
Okay, so is 5 smaller than those numbers or bigger than those numbers? Smaller, so 5 would go on the left. Now to the right, if it's greater than 5, what does that mean it goes off to? Infinity. It's going to keep going to infinity. So then we have to talk about our brackets. Is 5 included? Is 5 included?
Yes.
It is? No. There's no line underneath, so you have to use a round. And you cannot contain infinity, so you always use a round. Okay, let's talk about that one again. Let's go over that again. Shh. Please stop with the side conversations. Please stop. All right, so first of all, 5 is smaller than any number bigger than it, right? If we're saying x is greater than 5, that means 6, 7, 8, a million, 2 million, 2 million, 0.5. Any of those numbers are bigger, right? So 5 is the smallest, so it goes least to greatest, left to right. So 5 starts, and then if it's greater than 5, we're going to keep going and keep going and keep going forever, which means infinity. There is no line underneath the inequality. This is just greater than. It's not greater than or equal to. So it's like the open or closed circle thing. So if we were to graph this on a number line, it would be an open circle, right?
Yes.
So the thing in interval notation that means open circle is a soft round parenthesis, okay? So that's what that one is. You cannot contain infinity, so it's also always round. All right? Does that make a little bit more sense?
Yes.
Okay. You must read it in terms of x. You must read it in terms of x. So this is reading in terms of x. It's saying x is what to 1? What is that saying if you're reading it in terms? So x is greater than or equal to 1. Yes.
How come, greater than up there is like...
Right, but it's because you're reading it in terms of x. So this would be flipped around. So it's eating the bigger number, so x is being eaten, so it's bigger. How would you read it this way then? X is what to 4? Less than or equal to 4. So we're saying that x is between those two numbers. We're saying it's between 1 and 4. So, Brian, what kind of bracket or parentheses should be around the 1? Should it be this is a hard or a soft? Huh? Or you can use square bracket or round bracket. That works too. It's square, right? It's included. It says or equal to next to the 1, so we include it like a closed circle. We represent it with a square. So, RC, what do we do with the 4? Would it be square or round? So 4 is not included? It's not or equal to? So it's like that open or closed circle thing, right? So it should have been a closed circle, so it would be a square. Yes?
What do you mean by include?
It means that, like, if I say x is greater than 4, 4 is not included in the solution set, but any number bigger than 4 is. If I say 4 is greater than, or x is greater than or equal to 4, that means 4 is now included because it is or equal to 4. Does that make more sense? A little bit? Okay. Riley, how does number 3 read?
It says that y is less than 4.
So in this case, Justin, what you're talking about the included and not included, you're saying any number that is less than negative 4 is in the solution set. So that means negative 4.1, negative 4.22222, negative 4.5, negative 5, negative 100. Those are all less than negative 4. But negative 4 is not included in the solution set because it's not or equal to negative 4.
So all those higher numbers would have like the round bracket because they're not included?
So the original number, negative 4, would have the round bracket around it because it is not included. Because it's next to the inequality. So it's what's next to that inequality will get the round or square bracket. Okay? So and in this case, it doesn't have a line underneath it, so this negative 4 should get the round bracket. But we have to decide, should negative 4 be on the left or to the right? So we said any number less than negative 4. So I gave examples like negative 5, negative 100. Which one of those are smaller? Negative 100 or negative 4? So negative 4 should be on the right side, and we need to put the other number on the right, or the left. And we said that it's going to be less than negative 4, so it's going to keep getting more and more negative. So what would that be? Is that what you were going to say? What kind of bracket goes around that, Mike? The soft one? Good. And what kind of bracket goes around negative 4 in this case? Mike? It's or equal to negative 4? It says just less than, right? It doesn't include it. It's not less, it's just less than it. It's not or equal to. So it's just soft. So this would be or equal to add that here. And this would not have equal to. Does that make it make more sense to you guys? Maybe a little bit? I'm trying to keep getting to your question. I just keep coming back to it in whatever ways I can think of, okay? All right. So, Grace, you have to read it in terms of y. So y is what to negative 10? Be careful. It's eating the y. It's confusing because you're reading it backwards. Yeah. Justin, what is y to 2? Or... So we're going to be between negative 10 and 2, is what this is saying. Oops, sorry. Blaine, what kind of bracket should be around negative 10?
A hard bracket.
So it's greater than or equal to negative 10? It just says greater than negative 10. So it doesn't say or equal to. So does that include that then?
No.
So it should be,
So,
it should be the soft one. There you go. Josh, how about around 2? Should be soft or hard?
Hard.
It should be because it's or equal to. So notice I added these into your notes. So if it has the or equal to, you use the square. If it does not have it, you use the round. Okay, so maybe that will help you guys out a little bit too. All right, let's move on to some context problems after you have it written down. Quickly.
I don't like these.
so is so
This is why I'm not left.
All kids struggle with context. It doesn't matter if you're in math lab or not. It's just a normal struggle. It requires thinking, and some of you guys don't like to do that. All right. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. You learned this like 1,000 times last year. So we're going to just identify the slope and the y-intercept of the given equations really quickly. Remember, the slope is the same thing as rate of change, and rate of change shows the relationship between two changing quantities. Rate of change is always y over x as well, just so you guys know. We'll be talking about this Monday. We'll talk about slope, and then Tuesday we'll talk about rate of change. Next Wednesday we'll start graphing in slope-intercept form, and then Friday you'll have a quiz over everything you've learned so far. So that's kind of what's going to be like next week. So first, Gianna, tell me what the slope of number 1 is. 5. Remember, it's mx plus b. What is my y-intercept, Colin?
Y-intercept is -3.
Good, I love that you took the sign that's in front of it. That's so important that you guys do that. Kaylee, what is the slope of number 2?
M equals 2.
Do you not know what y equals mx plus b is?
Oh, okay.
Do you know it or not? Because
Yes,
if you
I
don't,
do.
that's
It's
fine. I
not
just need to
y
know where you're confused. Okay, so
Yeah.
do you understand that now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's fine if you didn't. I was asking because I needed to know where you were.
Yeah.
All right. Connor, how about the y-intercept of number 2?
11 or negative.
Yep, take that whole thing. So that's mx plus b. B is your y-intercept and m is your slope. So you can't determine your slope until it's in slope-intercept form. So needs to be in slope-intercept form. I know. So you guys should be really good at it. But for whatever reason, some of you still aren't. All right, so needs to be in slope-intercept form to find slope and y-intercept. So how do I get that into slope-intercept form? Riley, what would I do first?
You would subtract 4y.
You've got to get y alone. So you don't want to move the 4y, you want to move the...
Divide 4
Can't do that yet, there's an x in the way.
minus x.
There you go. Miguel, now what do I have to do?
Divide by 4.
So you divide every piece by 4, so that's y equals negative 1 over 4 x plus 3 over 2 when you simplify that. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that's where that came from. So now we can determine the slope and y-intercept. So Damien, yo, what is my slope?
I don't even know where I was.
We're right here. Just look, if you look up here and then you can write it down. But where's my slope in this one? So look up here. So notice for this one, the slope is 5. For this one, the slope was 2. So what is the slope in this one? Be careful. Look at this one. What's in front of the x? So -1/4. Guys, side conversations need to stop. Emma, what's the y-intercept? Good. All right. So questions on finding the slope and the y-intercept. All right, because then we're going to get into some context problems, and we'll just keep working through until, basically the bell rings. I don't know if we'll get through all of them, but we'll try our best. You love them. Okay, so we don't have a very good program to do it, so we use Desmos, which is an online free graphing calculator, but it doesn't let you scale very well. It's hard to change it. All right, Peter is staying home on a snow day. He looks at the thermometer in his kitchen, which measures the outside temperature. It reads 10 degrees Fahrenheit at 6 a.m. Peter checks the temperature and notices that every hour it raises 4 degrees Fahrenheit until 6 p.m. You do not need the graph to determine the slope. What does it start with? What is the starting temperature?
10 degrees Fahrenheit.
10 degrees Fahrenheit. So when we say y equals mx plus b, where is that 10 degrees Fahrenheit?
The B.
That is your starting, so that's 10 plus 10. Does it start at 10 on this graph?
Yes.
Yes. What is my slope?
4.
It's increasing by 4 degrees every hour. So it's degrees per hour. So degrees per hour is your rate of change. Remember, it's y over x. So that means that x is the number of hours when I go to label my graph. And y is my temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So the reason I'm doing this, so I'm going to back up a little bit here. The reason I'm doing this after I write the equation is that I'm going to have to, you guys are going to have to tell me things in context. So you need to know what x means and what y means. Okay? So that's why I'm telling you guys this stuff. So you notice every hour it raises 4 degrees, right? So that's 4 degrees per hour. So that's how I got that rate of change to be that. If you remember back to 8th grade, you remember doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 for the rate of change? So that's why I put y over x. So that means y-axis is in the temperature in degrees, and the x-axis is in the number of hours. So that's how I kind of figure out what my labels will be. All right, who can tell me what domain means? We talked about this on Monday. What is the domain? Alyssa? So you're looking at your x values in context. So you're looking at your x values in context. All right? Peter does not look at the temperature forever, does he? No. So we have to be careful about this. Which unit represents our x values? Which unit represents our x values? Which one of our units is the x values, Josh? So when we're doing this, we're talking about the number of hours Peter is spending looking at the thermometer. For whatever reason, he's doing this, okay? Talk to Erin Harrelson about this bullying at practice. She makes fun of me about this problem all the time, because last year she goes, what kid does that? True story.
Hey, Peter. What if he just checks it at exactly on the dot? Like, why does he get the same present?
I don't know, okay? And who does that on a snow day? So anyways,
Exactly.
so he starts at 6 a.m. He starts at 6 a.m. Do you guys agree with that?
Yes.
So he starts at 6 a.m. That's a hard bracket because he knows that temperature. At 6 a.m., it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit, right? He continues to look at it all day. 7 a.m. rolls around. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 rolls around, right? Well, then we go back to 1. Do you guys know what military time is?
Yes. It's military time.
So what would 6 p.m. He's doing this until 6 p.m. He's doing this until 6 p.m. What time would it be in military time if that was it?
18 o'clock.
Right, because you get to 12. 1 p.m. is 13.
And then it goes on.
2 p.m. is 14. 3 p.m. is, and so on and so forth. Huh?
Oh, I just said, you know, I know people saying, oh, I'm like, why is everyone saying, okay, it's military time?
Please focus. Please focus. Okay, so what does this mean? This is not an ordered pair. This is an x value to another x value. What does that mean for us? Give me a sentence about what that means. Remember, it's an x to an x because it's a domain. Yes.
I don't really know, but I'm thinking that's like, yeah, never mind.
What are you thinking? Just tell me.
Like, how the distance from start to finish,
Instead of distance, though, it's a time from start to finish, right? Peter starts looking at the thermometer at 6 a.m. and keeps looking at it until
6 p.m.
6 p.m. That's what that means. So 1,800 hours is fine if you want to say it that way. So Peter looks at the thermometer I can't spell thermometer. Is it up there? Yes, okay, good. From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
So he just stare at it?
That's what it seems like, yeah. On his notice.
I couldn't stay there and sit for that long.
All right. Focus, 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 focus. So then it says solve for. So it says solve f of x equals 34. Is that an output or an input?
Output.
Output, which means it's your y value, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So I would go up to 34 on my graph, follow it over, and down. And what do I get there?
8.
That's a 6. So that's 6 hours after he started. So if he started at 6 a.m., what does that mean this is? That's 6 hours after he started. No. 6 hours after 6 a.m. is 12. So at 12 p.m., the temperature is 34 degrees. Okay, say that you cannot read the graph because it's so terrible. Like this one. So notice we used a y in this equation. How else could we have written this? Can somebody tell me how else I could have written this? Give me another way I could have written this now. Yeah.
F of x equals 4x plus 10.
Yeah, we see that this is represented by f of x down here, right? So we could have written it as f of x equals 4x plus 10. Do you guys agree with that? F of x and y are the same? Okay, so we said that f of x equals 4x plus 10. Well, we just said that, I missed a 1 in front of that. We just said that f of x is the same thing as 34, right?
Yep.
So we replace that with 34. So x equals 6, which means 6 hours after he started, right? So 6 hours after he started is 12 p.m. Is that what we got on the graph too? So if you're like Justin and say that the graph is too hard to read, you have another option. That means that you can't use that as a default excuse for not doing your homework, is what I'm trying to imply here. You will be able to write an equation. All right, what questions do you guys have so far before we do the next example? Yeah, quickly. Okay, guys, go on to the next example. Shh. Guys, please focus. Lime is tracking the progress of her plant's growth for the science fair. The first day of the plant is 5 centimeters high. The plant grows 0.5 centimeters per day. Lime's plant will grow for the science fair for 30 days. Write the equation to model a situation that represents the height of the plant after D days. What? I think lime is lime as a Y is with an I is an E is a fruit. Okay. So, anyways, Emma, what is my slope? How much is it changing by? Okay, good. What is the starting height? What is the starting height of my plant?
5 centimeters.
So remember, it's y equals mx plus b. So our slope is centimeters per day. So that's y over x. So the x-axis is the number of days. And the y-axis is the height in centimeters. All right. Can we write this equation as a function? Can we write this equation as a function? Can we? So this says height of the plant after D days, and this has F down here. So that implies that they want us to do F of D. That implies they want us to do F of D. So what will go on the other side of that equation then? It's going to be basically the same. There's going to be one little difference. What is the difference going to be, Alyssa? What? 0.5. So instead of using X, they're using D there, because D represents the number of days, okay? So it's a little bit more descriptive because it matches the same letter as it starts with. So that's why people do stuff like that. Okay, what is the appropriate domain? So first of all, remember, domain is the X's, and in this case, what is our X's representing? What are our X's representing? Yeah.
Per day.
So which one is it? Growth or days?
Oh, yeah.
It's the number of days, right? So we're talking about the number of days that Lime is looking at her plant. So she starts on she starts at day 0, right? And then she does it for 30 days, right? It says she goes for 30 days, right? So would that be 29 or 30 then? If she's doing it for 30 days and we're starting at 0.
30.
I would accept that from you guys just because of the confusion of it, but technically 30 days, if you're starting at 0 as 1, it would be 29, but I understand why you choose 30. So we'll stay with 30 for us in this case just because I know there's a little bit of confusion there. So, anyways, so we're including 0 because we know the initial height, right? We're including day 30 because we know we can get the height of the plant after 30 days, right? Do you guys agree? See what I'm saying there? Okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean? Tell me what that means for Lime. What does that mean for Lime? Remember, it's an X value to another X value. What does this mean for Lime in context? Tell me what this means for Lime. Riley?
From day 0, like the time between day 0 to day 30.
I just put Riley down instead of Lime. You're now Lime. Lime.
Just 3 names now.
I cannot even keep it straight. Lime tracks her plant's growth from day 0 to 30. All right. I know. So the next question says evaluate f of 18. So is that an input or an output?
Input.
Input, so that means x equals 18. So I go to 18 on my x-axis. You guys are making it really hard to teach because I have to keep telling you to stop talking. Can anybody read what that says for the height?
14.
So, the height of the plant after 18 days is 14 centimeters. Okay, if you are like Justin who hates these graphs because they're so tiny, what could you have done instead? What? could you have done, guys? Use the f of x. What could we plug in for f of x or f of d? 18. So we can say f of 18 equals 0.5 times 18 plus 5. 9 plus 5 is... So do we get the same thing either way?
Sure.
We do. Right, we have a table next. Go ahead and get that written down. I know some of you are still writing, so I don't want to stop you from writing. That doesn't, guys, that doesn't mean you can start talking. Okay. Kiera works in a clothing store, in clothing sales. She earns a base salary of $20,000. It's a really expensive clothing line. And receives 30% commission on her sales.
What's a commission?
Okay, good question. What is a commission? Does anybody know?
I do. I just gotta explain it.
Yeah.
It's like you're paid based on your sales.
Right. So, for example, there's companies like Mary Kay, It Works, Usborne. I'm trying to think of other ones. Victoria's Secret's not like that. Car salesmen.
Realtors.
Car salesmen, realtors, they all make commission. So, if somebody sells $60 a product for Mary Kay, which is a makeup company, and they get 10% commission, they get $6 off their sales.
Oh.
So, Usborne is a book company. If you sell $100 a book and you get a 25% commission, you get $25 from that sale. Does that make sense?
Oh.
You're not buying one book. People can buy more than one thing.
It makes sense.
To add $100. I meant books in general. Car salesmen, sell cars. They get a certain amount of commission from there. Yes.
Isn't that?
They get money.
Not exactly, because you personally are tipping him and they don't get a direct commission. Because it could, RC could go in and give a 20% tip, and then I could go in and be a total jerk and give a 5% tip. You know what I mean? So that's not technical commission because it's not the same amount. Whereas if you are commissioned, you will get that commission every time. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Don't some restaurants make the waiters give a portion of their tips back to them?
Not just to the restaurant. They they spread it the wealth from the busboys and the cooks and stuff like that.
Aw, that's
Nice. That ticked me off.
Okay. So we are going to write an equation to model a situation that represents Kiera's salary after S sales. So notice that we're using f of s down here. Do you guys see that?
Yes.
So f of s, she makes a 30% commission on her sales. How do you write 30% as a decimal? 0.30. So I'm going to put 0.3 there. You move the decimal to, you're dividing by 100 essentially is what that means, which is 0.3. Or you move the decimal 2 to the left, however you want to think of that. And what does she start off making? What does she start off making?
Base salary is 20K.
Okay, so it then says Kiera does not receive commission after she after she has sales of over $60,000. So we have to determine X and Y. So it's percent commission per sales. So sales is on the bottom, right? And her percent commission is going to give us our total profit here. So your Y is your total profit, and your X is your sales. Okay, what's up?
Is that an S behind the...
Yes, it is an S. Okay, so the appropriate domain has to do with her sales. What is the least amount of sales she can make?
0.
0. What don't they give her commission after?
0.
60,000, right? They stop at 60,000. They said if you sell $60,000, if you sell more than $60,000, you're not getting any more commission on it.
Oh.
They stop her commission and close. Yeah, it's a very expensive clothing company. So Kiera makes commission from $0 to $60,000 of sales. So it says evaluate f of 20,000 and explain your answer. What is f of 20,000? What is f of 20,000? Riley?
That would be 20,000. To 26K.
Yeah. So that is the input. So that is your x value or your s value. So I look for it over here, and that is $26,000. So what does 20,000, comma 26,000 mean? What does that mean in terms of this problem? Who knows what that means? Alyssa?
For $20,000 in sales, you get 26,000 total profit.
Yeah. So Kiera sells $20,000 in sales. She makes $26,000. It's not that much. That's not a lot to live off of in this world.
That's so much
It's more than I usually make.
Right, for you guys, maybe it seems like a lot, but that's not that much. Okay.
16 switches.
So 30,500 is the output because it's on the outside. So, Jayla, what does 30,500 correspond to? Well, is that your total profit or your sales? If it's your output. Why are you talking? Is this your total profit or your sales? Yeah, so you have to find total profit, so what does that correspond to? So that'd be 3,500 in sales, and you make 30,500. So when she sells $35,000 in clothes, she makes 30,500. Right, so look at that one and see what questions you have there before we do one more.
She lost money.
No, she didn't. She's not losing money.
Oh,
That's the amount of money in clothes she sold.
Oh, yeah.
That has nothing to do with her.
So wouldn't that be a lot?
Yeah, does it say per month though? It might be a yearly thing. Maybe they don't let her go over $60,000 in a year. It doesn't say what it is. You know what I mean? If it was per month, then that would be a lot of money. If it's a yearly thing, so it depends on what it is looking at, right? Yeah.
I was gonna say if it was per year, that's money.
That is. You mean per month?
Well, not, yeah, per month.
It would be. That'd be good. That'd be a good salary right there.
You think? That's ridiculous.
Doctors make more. Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say their job is to save people's lives.
Cindy is starting to jog to get ready for her marathon.
What happened to that dog?
She discovers she can burn 398 calories for every hour she runs. She's training for a marathon, so she does not want to exceed running for more than 5 hours for that marathon. Write the equation to model the situation that represents Cindy's total calories burned. And we see f of x below, so we're going to use f of x. So, what would our equation be? How many calories does she burn? Yeah.
It would be 398x.
Yeah. And do you burn any calories if you don't do anything? No, so our starting amount would be 0. So it's calories per hour. So x is the number of hours and y is the number of calories burned. Does it make sense to have these negatives on here?
Yeah.
Can you run a negative number of hours?
Yes.
No, you cannot go back in time. That's not even possible yet. It's not possible yet.
I was gonna say, couldn't you just eat a lot, like, you know, because that would kind
That's not what it's saying though. It's
Yeah.
the amount of hours you're running.
That's still not running backwards. You can run it in reverse.
That's not how that works.
Days she missed, like hours she.
No. There's not a negative number of time. So make sure when you're looking at things, it makes sense. Does that make sense to you? Yes. Don't make up another
What
scenario.
if she ran backwards?
No.
It's still running at
But it's still running.
Also, running backwards is harder because it uses different muscles. All right. So, what is the domain has to do with the number of hours. So the domain has to do with the number of hours. What is the least number of hours she can run?
Zero.
0. What is the most she wants to run?
5.
That's 5 hours, not miles. If she was running a marathon, she would have to train for 26.2 miles. So,
I ran 9.
4 miles.
so, Cindy wants to run 0 to 5 hours during her marathon. Okay. What does f of 2 mean? That is your input. What does f of 2 mean?
796 calories.
Yeah, so it's 2 comma 796. So for when she runs 2 hours, she burns 796 calories.
You go, girl.
What corresponds to our output? Shh. What corresponds to our output? Alyssa? So 4 comma 1592. So if she runs for 4 hours, she burns 1,592 calories.
What does she eat?